Gary. And is that tequila or Winnie? How do you tell? That is tequila. The way you can tell is tequila is chilled out until you come to the house. Then she will take your face off. And she doesn't have the peach crest that Winnie does. Anyway, hope you're having a good day. If you're watching this live, give me a 1 in the comments. If you're watching this on a replay, give me a 3 in the comments. And also, in a little bit more than a week, I have an incredible online program. If you want to learn the strategies, especially if you're an author, coach, speaker, consultant, high-level entrepreneur, and you'd like to learn the strategies and how is it that people like myself and other speakers, I just had a friend of mine say, hey, yesterday, Gary, I did $200,000 in one event. How do we do that? So I'm going to pull the curtain back, if you will, and show you those strategies. It's kind of like a magic trick. You ever seen somebody do a magic trick and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Until they show you the trick. Then it's, oh, really? Well, I'm going to show you the, oh, really? It's that easy? It's that easy. It's only easy if you what? If you know it. So I'm going to show you what those things are. If you're interested in that program, type the word freedom in the comments, the word freedom, and myself or somebody on my team will get you a link for that for you to register. Now we're going to talk about this concept, and I've heard it for years, about your why. Your why isn't strong enough. Your why should make you cry. All right, so I do not believe in this concept. Part of it is true. That's part of an ingredient to make the level of success that people want to go to important, but as it takes to make a cake, it's more than just flour or sugar or whatever. There's a number of different ingredients that have to be made. So that would be like me saying for you to bake a cake, you just need flour. That's not going to really be accurate, even though flour is part of the ingredient. So let's talk about this from a psychological standpoint. All right, so let me switch cameras over and we'll pop over here. And people will say this why concept. We'll put the word why here. And often it comes up when somebody says, look, you know, if you're not getting enough results, one of the reasons is your why isn't big enough. So here's my argument with that. What does that really mean it's not big enough? Because if somebody says who you look at as successful and you were to ask them, you know, what's your why? Well, my why is my family. Well, then 100 other people who are saying, well, my why is my family too. How come you got more success than I do? Where's the misconnect here? If we were to take 1,000 people, put them in a room that were all cigarette smokers, and you asked all those 1,000 people, show of hands, how many of you in here would like to quit smoking cigarettes? I think you will agree with me that the majority of people are going to put their hand up. But let's say you give them some strategies on what it is they need to do to quit smoking. How many people, what percentage of those people will actually quit over a period of time? Will it be a large percentage or a small percentage? It'd be a small percentage. But would we also agree that everybody in that room that put their hand up, they would all tell you blatantly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that they all have a what? They all have a why. So how is it then only a few percent of people succeed and the large majority don't when everybody agrees that they have a why? That's a very interesting concept. So let's go to that concept and understand it. When you think of the word why, meaning why you need to succeed, or in somebody says, or when you hear your why isn't big enough, I want you to understand, equivalent why to the word value. Value. Why equals value. What is value? Value is the following. Value is the level of importance, you place on something. That's it. So again, what is value? Value is the level of importance you place on something. That definition of value should give you a huge clue as to why everybody has a why, but only some people succeed, even though they might have the same why as somebody else. Why? Because the person who succeeded, they have a higher value or level of importance that they've placed on something. This is why one person can say, well, my value is my family, and another person says, well, my value is my family. How come I'm not succeeding like that person? Well, this person has just placed a higher value than the person who hasn't succeeded. Now, there's other ingredients. Keep in mind, you have to also believe. You have to have different skills depending on what, the specific track is that you're going on that you want to succeed at. But ultimately, remember, your why equals your value, which is the level of importance you place on something. So then, I'm always, for myself, always figuring out what my why is, knowing what my why is, and what's the next step? Figuring out how I can get a higher level of what? A higher level of importance on that why. The next question I often get is, so Gary, how do you do that? There is no one answer that would fit everybody. So the answer in itself, though, would be, let me find out more about your value system and your belief system and what your goals are. So ultimately, I would need to do an assessment with a person, figure out what's going on in their brain, what's their core belief system, what's their limited belief system, what's their stories. All these things will help me determine how they would increase their level or value on their why. So I would not be able to say, well, here's how you increase your value of why, and then everybody who's listening to this can take that knowledge and say, okay, boom, it's changed. It's not going to work that way, because everybody has a different reason why they want to succeed, and each person or each individual may need a different approach to increase their level of importance. I'll give you an example, though. Somebody wants to lose weight. How do you increase the level of importance on something? Well, if you hang around people who are always overeating, you're going to increase or decrease your value. It's probably going to decrease. So what would you do? You would hang around people that eat healthier. Maybe you would watch different things online, or you read different magazines, or you read things on health. You look for people on social media that have that image or that body that you're looking forward to trying to have. These are the things that you use to increase your value. Here's another illustration. There was somebody, and this works often. If you have somebody who's wanting to quit smoking cigarettes, I remember, and I don't do addictions at all, but this was years ago, and I said to a person who wanted some help with, smoking cigarettes, I said, how open are you to volunteering at a hospital where people have cancer or are dying of cancer, or in hospice because they're dying because of smoking? That would increase your value, hopefully, on life, on living and staying alive longer. I remember one day working with a woman who had a problem with cigarette smoking, and I remember asking her, now I'm looking for the value, this is why this is individualized. I asked her, I said, who in your family or somebody that you're close to that you just absolutely adore? And she said, my grandson. So I had her pull out a cigarette while we were eating and we're having lunch. And I said, okay, I want you to pull out a cigarette. She pulled out a cigarette. And then as she was pulling out a cigarette, I said, I want you to pretend to take a puff out of it. We didn't light it up. She pretended to take a puff out of it. While she was holding the cigarette between her two fingers, we had a glass of water in front of us. And then I took my finger, dipped it in the glass of water. The water was just hanging off my finger, and I dropped the drip of water onto the cigarette as it soaked in. And as it hit the cigarette and soaked in, I said to her, that's the tear of your grandson. She immediately started crying. Now, before that, I also set the situation up that she had died and she was in a coffin, and her grandson is looking over at her, and then that was the tear on the cigarette that came from her, or her grandson looking at her in the coffin, as if she were to pull out and make a three-dimensional view of what's going on. There's so many different approaches, but the bottom line is if you want to make a difference with your why, is you have to have a higher level of importance. So your focus is to learn how to increase your value on things, and it's that increasing value on things that's going to really get you more results consistently and get you to be very disciplined as well. So value is very, very important. Remember, why equals value. Value is a level of importance you place on something. Hope you've enjoyed this. in the comments, if you have, type I now know, or I know now. I think I have it down there for you to write down, or type in I now know. All right, we're out of here. Tequila, say goodbye. Tequila doesn't talk. Tequila whistles, though. You want to whistle, Tequila? No whistling. Between now and the next time we get the chat, you know what to do. And if you don't, you will now. Don't let others run space in your head. Have an awesome day. We'll see you. Look forward to seeing your comments. And if you want to join my program in the next week and a half or so, type in the word freedom. We'll get you a link for that program. And